From the days of the Abyssinia, the ATEKER people have never had a queen or a king. They govern themselves using select leaders of various clans from whom the culture head is chosen. This culture head is known as the Emorimor among the Teso. Following the death of our Paramounf chief, His Highness Emorimor Papa Teso, Augustine Osuban Lemukol, may his soul rest in peace. Tourism Teso is here to share with you a journey on how the next Emorimor is going to be elected. In this episode, I am joined by young, vibrant, very intelligent young men from Teso, who are going to share with us all these topics that we have mentioned, and I believe that it is going to be a very resourceful discussion. Join us for more Amuriat. Welcome to Miss Tourism Teso, Yoga Kere ATEKER. My name is Aanyu Sheila Ogeuna, and I am your host today for the first ever discussion on the journey to the next Emorimor Papi Teso. With me today are very intelligent young people that are going to share with us on various topics concerning the Teso and our leadership. Thank you very much for joining us today.
I want to appreciate the fact that today we are here to discuss the journey of Emorimor, which I should rightly say the journey of the ATEKER people, the journey of 5,000 years, the journey from the upper Egypt, which we can rightly say the journey of upper Ethiopia, from Ethiopia to Bungoma, Kenya. My name is Gabriel Opolot Gabriel. I am from the ATEKER of Ikuro clan. I come from Mukura in Ngora district. I represent the office of the interim Emorimor, apparently in charge of communications in his office. But at the same time, I'm also the Secretary General of the ATEKER Clan Federation, which brings in together all the ATEKER people in the 4 countries of the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia for the Nyangatom, and then South Sudan for the GA and the Togosa. Then we have Turkana for Kenya, and then Teso for also Kenya. Uganda, we have both the Teso and the GA and the Karmolyo. And a new member in the ATEKER community, the ATEKER Ngokutio. They are in Karenga and Kitui. Thank you very much.
Paramounf ekakro Edium Cosmas, Raino Ajokalo la partner Ratibong, Ajeut Kamor, no in a crone Kamanora ATEKER na Teso. Raina Ibora Jokonoi, Narai, in a kiniso pape, Lipeka ATEKER, Ajin the Italo 6. Kajin da Jokana Itunebe, I give to Rabunere. Arango, Atungala Lomra ATEKER Yatai, Goria Elira. Aranga Raban, Onyatekerka Isarakina, Amarado Bustijay. Bulton Amuriat, Onyateker na Paul Jay Surut in Baka Oja, Onyeka Papa na Bulton Amuria. A lipting a bay, Nulos and Amora ne route in the Petra Arakan ATEKER 10. Odocho. Tapi ingarakini ATEKER ajenu no sine ingarakini ATEKER go kai go ATEKER nuche yarama
Emuriat koliai Teso busete ekakiro Pascal ya Amuriat era rakit araingo la lomuta ATEKER na baka ira rakita le jam nye baka revita le jam akosingo ritale ti jam iche kilioko elo tako siberu apero jame chelo mame beit akie ko iki ariye bundo da makajeni kidebe e chiedara chabo apese se baka ibe mami bunne ji tale jam kara iche dijo ara ibe baka site so be puja kwenye. I thought I would introduce that a little bit. In terms of the work for ATEKER, I am an author. Tolo mutu ngitabo ngelegela. My first ever launched book was Awaragasia Niteso. But before Awaragasia, I've written Asapa na Iteso, a handbook. Tolo mutu ngoesisi ya wateso. Ejaibe ita bapaki ya nyanari Aanyu ngobe. Agiotu ngai tolo munde art and science of emome. Epole ramere mome. Ito ni ngesa rauni bore ni gwa ikina saane. Adoketa itu vera dopeta ngeni. Na yare ite to matukot. Kabu adumute yare reng. Ai boy kino council ngone baka bete so culture union council. Nesu ita era beta na iteso. Ida gwa ikiti ngoi tungalo kumi. District alo kumi. Ido wajaile mwadau ngone peta e. Ikari yara jaito makonya lomutu donga para sana corona. So I have not had much impact because of these challenges of corona, but secondly also puaini ngosa nupadia to matukotuluma chama kitos to be able to do something tangible that we, but by standards etei berangebe ire roja tumuna kalwegelegelo tesade atumuna kitomo no lusodi tilemi na sakero be piteni teso chama mutu ngata ajia ingotoma. And it is passion that has driven us to be part of that process of Ajana ATEKER. So I'm happy for Miss Tourism. I woro no yongoda abunera moroke di woketunga no teso epona kakira no. I could talk a lot. Konye ajala isberani yalama.
So before we go any further, we would like to share a brief history on who are the Iteso. We'd like to share with our people out there a little bit about who we are, where we've come from before we settled into where we are. I would like to invite Pascal, Amuriat, to share with us a few thoughts. I would like to open up the talk for all of us to share, because I'm sure it is a very comprehensive thing and all of us can chip in on the history of the Iteso. Maybe I will start with Gabriel, who is seated right here with me.
Yeah, let Gabriel start. He's very knowledgeable on most of these matters.
Okay.
We'll only have the joiners. I would prefer to have the joiners.
Okay. So Gabriel.
Iteso began their journey way back in what you would call the Garden of Eden. The biblical Garden of Eden was surrounded by 4 rivers: the Euphrates, the Tigris, and then the Gihon and the Pishon. For us, in the book of Genesis, our area of beginning was just near Lake Tana in the present-day Ethiopia. Lake Tana is drained by the Blue Nile, which we call the Gihon. And then our people settled there. But as you know, we have this common word which we use to associate with us: ATEKER. We are also the people of the ATEKER. Because of dialectical variations, Ichioto ma ATEKER, mame nyaraete ATEKER, e nyaraete ATEKER. To also depict that we are the people of the ark. The people from that creation account of Moses, who now come to be the descendants of Noah. And not just Noah, but the black son of Noah called Ham. And not just Noah, Ham, but the son of Ham called Cush, the black one. Now, that Cush is the one who established what you now call, popularly called the Kush Empire. When the Greeks came, they gave us a name of their Greek god, Ethiopicus. And so that's why we say Ethiopia gave birth to Egypt. But the original name was Tarsete, the kingdom of Tarsete. So, as ATEKER people, we all settled in the famous mountain. People here call it Moretunga. But around 1554, when the Turks were expanding the Ottoman Empire, a notorious Arab commander, expansionist called Ahmed Gregan, decided to attack Ethiopia. And so began our journey. Our journey started from our great warrior called Ojurat, Papo Lemlem. And so our journey has been on a base of generations. From Ojurat, you come to Onyangaese as a leader. From Onyangaese, you come to Okori. Okori, Otikiri. Otikiri, you come now to the one that would be very useful for the account of Iteso, Asonya. Asonya, that brings now right up to here, the place we gave a name Nakamalenga, Napak. Napak is where now the ATEKER people decided to split the famous Moroto. The Turkana ATEKER moved back to the present day Turkana in Lodwar. Then the Nyangatom moved back to Ethiopia. And then the Toposa actually went wild. The Posiaro say Posiare. Unyuni Tunguna Lusitunai to southern Sudan, the present day Capoeira. Then the GA actually went more wild. They almost crossed to Upper Nile. They wanted, I think, to cross either to take charge of the current area of the Nuer. They went up to Kesengor as their major city. Then for us, a certain section of the GA came and settled in the present day Kotido. And then we as the Iteso had a challenge. We could not continue fighting, struggling for pasture. Our people decided to now send emissaries. Emissaries that my brothers are very familiar of, Malenga and his brother, Lemukol, who now crossed into the present day Lake Bissina, which they gave the name Abyssinia, where we came from. From Abyssinia name, our people went back and said, okay, you come, it is okay here. And now the Iteso moved up to Soroti, Ngora, Serere, Katakwi, different groups, military formations, conquest, literally, up to when our people reached to Tororo. Tororo with the great command of a man who is very much at the level of Napoleon Bonaparte. Those of us who are familiar with the French Revolution. I am a scientist, I am a medical doctor, I am also a computer engineer, but I have had the opportunity of studying the European history. A man called Oguti, who could command clan regiments to the numbers of 40,000 troops and drove off the Bukusu up to the present day Kenya. Ekidapat, Ongelech, and Ekuleut now moved to the eastern axis and crossed to the present day Amagoro, Amokura, deep into Bungoma, Kakamega areas of the present day Kenya. So, in a nutshell, our journey has taken us closer to 3,000 years from that Gihon up to where we are. So briefly, that is what you would call our historical Iteso.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel Opolot. for that very insightful detail on who the Teso are. And I encourage everyone out there from the ATEKER, from the Teso, to learn about where we come from. It is very important for us to know who we are, for us to be able to protect what we have. Going forward, we would like to also discuss about our leadership structure as the Teso. We very well know that the ATEKER has never had a king or a queen since our times in the Abyssinia. We would like to also find out about the Emorimor. Who is the Emorimor? How is an Emorimor elected? And everything concerning the leadership structure of the Teso. So I would like to call upon Pascal to take us through that section.
Wow, thank you so much, Sheila, for this in-depth discussion. I would like to thank my brother Opolot Gabriel Emabir. Lo Lupot.
Why do they say low or something?
Lo Lupot is because I am son of Olupot. So I can say Amuriat a Pascal, Lo Lupot, La Amuriat, Le Chakaraha, La Chaku. So I can trace at least 5 generations upwards.
So the Pascals and Gabriels
And the Sheila
are names of evidence of conquest.
Exactly. So rather,
our ancestors would just identify you by your father.
Oh.
Exactly. That's
so
true.
they were very independent people. They would say Lono.
So a writing or Amuriat, Lo Lupot, or I colorate out. I'm actually in the process of amending my name to call it Erarakit, Lo Lupot. It's just that it's a very cumbersome process, but it's a work in progress. So this is a very interesting discussion. There are so many schools of thought in as far as how the Teso migrated, where they come from. It's a discussion that must continue. It should never stop. But what is common amidst all this discussion is the fact that we are pointing towards one singular point of start, which is in Ethiopia. And because we seemingly all believe that we started somewhere from, our journey from there. But also, I would like to touch a little bit about it. I thought I would have rejoinders. Then I can discuss the leadership structure, and possibly how somehow we arrive at Emorimor, and what could later on, if time allows, how do we then start the process of identifying who takes over from His Highness Papa Emorimor Labuton. First of all, there are critical things we must know. I've just talked about the issue of originality, which we all agree that Abyssinia is our point of start. Though I don't want to link our journey to the Christian belief that somehow we originate from the Garden of Eden, and somehow trying to link it again to the colonialism aspect. I have the recent talks that we have been having and discussions seem to suggest that Turkana is the cradle of humanity, and there is evidence to that case. And so the real humanity, what is being called the Garden of Eden, is actually in a place called Turkana. And we are happy to be a part of that process, who are the originators of humanity. So we are not far away. For our people who are listening in now, from here to Lodwar, from Soroti to Lodwar to Moroto is about 170 kilometers. From Moroto to Lodwar is about 100 and something kilometers, which means is that to reach Turkana is nearer than reaching Kampala. So we have a real linkage with the cradle in Turkana. And so what that means that because of this, the conquest of Africa by a few European powers, we somehow found ourselves being annexed into areas where we don't have similarities. Maybe it explains part of the challenges. Because if you look at Turkana, the Ngakari Mojong, and all the other persons in the ATEKER, the Nyangatom, the Topotha, we have similar dialects. And I would like to just mention 1 or 2 words. If you go to Turkana, there's a clan called Teso, a clan. But also, if you go to Turkana, when they say Tobongulore, in Teso, Bongai, Ore, these are similarities. So when I went to Turkana, in different festivals that we had. You could speak and they say, well, these are our grandchildren. There is a real relationship. It is not a relationship which we are just forcing ourselves into. We are having similarities with our brothers in Karamoja. Like, for example, if you go to Moroto and you say, Abonguntionga, already you know about Bongutego, and episode should be about Abonguntionga. And why am I having this discussion? It is true we came as ATEKER, right from Abyssinia. We have that relationship. But also, there are things I will take note as I discuss into the leadership structures and why some people believe that we don't have kings. I will have a contrary view to that. But allow me to say is that somehow we moved from that far journey. We did not wish to move, but we were moved by circumstances which were beyond our control. Really, it was war-related and other factors. But to cut the whole story, I'm not going to go into thousands and millions of years. I want to start from the great Karyonga. Again, this has no empirical evidence, and I don't want to be held accountable, because the issues of spirituality are issues of spirituality. By the mercy of God, I got a revelation. I met Asonya in the spirit. No, Aryonga. I met Aryonga in the spirit, and in that spiritual arena, because of the passion that we have for ATEKER, I was shown Aryonga around 1215. This is about 800 and something years, who was sort of one of the leaders who supported the process of us reaching where my brothers talked about, somewhere in Napak, somewhere in Pianupe, in now a place called Angisa on the Teso side. That was one of the first places that Ites were believed to have stopped to say, let's first take a rest here. Because the journey was too long. I urge Miss Tourism and other, if we are to understand this journey, I have been to this journey. I have traveled from here by road up to Turukana, up to Lake Turukana, and I somehow have the idea of what goes on in those mountainous areas, in the desert and so on, and the circumstance with which we somehow arrive in Angisa. Now, when we arrive there are a series of leaders. But before I talk about the leadership, let me touch a little bit about, you said, who are the Teso? Well, the travel journey is just one account. But there are other accounts. In terms of our drinks, the popular drink like Teso, Erasa John. It is our drink, and we must own it. I see other tribes wanting to own the Ajono, and I think going forward we must patent Ajono Kwapani Teso. Hopefully someone has not patented it already. But we must own Ajono, we must own ABC. It is our drink. Secondly, we must own Inyamat. Ejiwok Inyamat where I'll walk. Emare. We must own Emare. We must own Atapa. The Ngoyo Balano Teso. Our Atapa is different from other communities. Our Atapa is a little bit unique. It is not mingled like any other. So we must own Atapa na eli moti. But the real traditional Atapa, the recipe for preparing it is a little bit different. So we must own our traditional economic system is the real the Kawaitu. That is it. You must only talk about it, so you talk about it, and you must not lose this history. As much as right now we don't have enough cows because of challenges of war and so on, the cow is in our deep spiritual and cultural heritage, and we must know that. Where the Teso now, the mother Teso that you're talking about, they currently split districts. But let me talk about it in Teso district local government. I will not go into Ibuku, Igulu, or Chako. But let's look at the mother Teso. You look at places of Tororo. There are places in Kenya where the Tesos on their way migrating. And there are Tesos all over the diaspora and so many other places. But for this context, we leave it at that. Now let's discuss about leadership. It is not true that Teso didn't have a leader. If we had not had a leader, we would have not left Abyssinia and reached here and conquered many communities. No, we had a system of leadership. And what is that system? What challenges? I was saying what challenges me is that people are struggling for leadership. And they do not understand the very basics of the cultural and spiritual heritage of the Teso. Leaders such as Sonia, very highly serious disciplinarians. You do not mess up in the Teso communities. I see people with this laissez-faire attitude. A Teso is a disciplined man. And the leadership, the Ariongas, the Sonias, now with his disciples, Dok. For me, I am thinking one of the great persons we should be discussing is Asonia. We must discuss Asonia because Asonia is one of the greatest. Asonia. Because there was a human being who was strict, who was well understood, whom people knew that this is the man to reckon with. So Asonia is a time, yes, but there is a personality in Asonia. And sooner or later, we should be having an Asonia memorial to discuss the traits of Asonia and what he tried for. So there was a leadership structure. Asonia had disciples, if you want to call it that way. He had followers who were around this structure of implementation. That includes Oduk. Oduk are younger children of Asonia. It includes the Malingas and so on. So there was some form of structure. It is not true that there was no structure. There was a structure. There is a structure to run ATEKER and Teso. So given that background, even when there were challenges and we had these clans, different clan systems, there is a system of leadership within the clan, but that personality to unite the all Teso has always been there. Only that it went to individual. But right now, by what I see is that we seem to agree that let us have a Emorimor. From the word I'm kicking. Emorimor. Let us come together. This is what makes the office of Emorimor. So when you are an Emorimor, you should be able to bring everybody together, irrespective of the internal contradictions, irrespective. You must be this character who brings all people together on one table because we are one, but also you must also be highly disciplinarian. Emorimor is not a weakling. You must be a tough individual. You must be a tough, you must sanction punishment for those that are going astray. It's not a joking institution. You are dealing with issues of land, issues of marriage, issues of spirituality, and you are not supposed to be a weak leader. And why am I speaking about this? Because the office of Emorimor has always been there, except that it has evolved from smaller communities. Because we came here as a few people, but we have grown in terms of, I'm told statistically we are above 5 million people. So we are quite a big number. But from the other side, it could have been about 1,000 arriving at Anisa. So from that 1,000 to millions. But there was some form of structure. Now, why am I bringing this history? So that we understand that the office of Emorimor has existed, but somehow because of challenges here and there, the colonization interference from about 1600 is when we got some interruption up to now. We are dealing with a real problem. And we must go back to discuss this problem. Now, getting back to the leadership, the current structure, how it looks like of the chiefdom, it's quite wide. But the ideal situation, again, I'm saying ideal because this is what we want it to be. It may not be what it is right now, but it is an ideal situation which brings together clans from different places. By the last time there was a clan directory, we have over 1,200 clans. From the seven major clans. Yes, so we are discussing with the real problem. How come we are highly fragmented this way? Now, because of that fragmentation, there are so many clans, which for me is a big problem. I think we need to be honest and say, Lolirarak and Notakinos and have one clan. We must discuss these things. For me, I'm Iraraki, and I'm prepared to lead that process. Of ensuring that come together and we say, we are Iraq. And we must discuss that. But the system that is available right now in the chiefdom is such that the kingdom or chiefdom cannot exist without the clan structure. And so the clan structures are supposed to start from Ochalo in the villages, and then from Ato to Benangun, they come to the parishes, somehow to the sub-county, the district. Now, the district structure comes in. Usually the committee is about 9 to 11 people.
Are these things which have just been set up right now, or
they are there?
Trying to adjust
no,
the changes in
no,
time?
they are there.
They have been there.
They are there. The issue is, are they being utilized? But they are
There.
They are there. Now, once you have a district structure, which is supposed to oversee clan issues, and let me tell you the truth. The leadership system, a chiefdom, is a governance structure. It's not for fun. We have a real stake in the matters of Teso. So we don't come in just to be ceremonial and just enjoy some nyameta kiringo and matajon. Well, it's good, yes, but we are dealing with other governance issues which are for the interest of a Teso or people who are in Teso. Now, if you are in Teso and you buy land here, you become a Teso to buy land ownership. So whether you are Muganda or whatever, as long as you have bought land here. Two, by marriage. Once you marry here, somehow you get if you are a woman, you are assimilated into this community. Now, once we lay the foundation for the structure to district chairperson, there's a whole committee, someone called treasurer, blah blah blah, women affairs, youth, and some PWDs. Those are catered for. Now, at that level, those are the direct managers of managing affairs of the clan from the district to the village. And they have their mandate. I will not discuss, but one of the mandates is protect land for the ATEKER, protect widows' land, to ensure that ATEKER issues are going ahead. And they have a long job description. Of course, there is the abuse. For me, I want to discuss what it's supposed to be, but it's an abuse by some individuals. We must accept that sometimes some clan leaders, of course, can choose to do the contrary, which is against what Asonya put in place. If Asonya was there, Tierra Bella, he posts your job because it's Diakajo. Now, I also know Rico Posio to Diakanata take it. There is still some kiboko. If you mess up, this is our governance structure. Of course, human rights are saying now, as long as you are going, now these people who said they had a dukone in Kataki, a son sleeping with a mother, that amount to murder, would just kill and clear those ones, because it is an abuse. They don't deserve to live. Now, that structure is there in the institution. The second structure we must discuss is the Intercultural Council, which is sort of like a parliament to discuss issues of governance, what direction should we take, general legislation and oversight role, so to say, and that also there's an election which is supposed to be carried out to make sure that you arrive in council. Council would ideally be so big, because they put it so, and I'm sure this opportunity, many leaders have called me, they want to be part of council. I've told them, ATEKER. I've already been discussing with my clan chairperson in Telegram. They are so there must be a process which allows you to come from a ATEKER to the district and then to the council.
So for all these positions that you're talking about, all of them are elected. There is no hereditary.
There is no hereditary. You know why our system is in such a way that why is it not hereditary? I could be a good leader. My son could be a weak leader. So the elders sit down and say, I think this boy deserves it. So even Emorimor is not hereditary, because at one point you can be a strong Emorimor and another boy of yours is so weak, maybe not interested in affairs of culture. And so they elect someone, a chief, who is going to work together with other elders and chiefs. So the council, you elected, there's an electoral commission in the institution that comes to oversee a process that allows you to come to council.
And how do you get the people who are in the electoral commission?
They are appointed. Usually they are appointed by Zionist Papa Emorimor to help him oversee, because Emorimor needs this to be able to run affairs of governance in the institution. So the councillors are specially elected. Of course, there must be some bare minimums. You must be of sound character. If you are a witch, then that could be one negativity. If you have a character of stealing, there are some bare things that Iteso don't agree with. So once you come to council, you meet other councillors, and the current structure provides for youth, women, and PWDs and some two other, which are making 5. But previously it was a bigger council, to have over 1,000. But now, given the challenges, maybe we need to rethink. There are some set of individuals who believe that Onyarai, let us increase the size of council, so that it is not easy to compromise council. So if we have more elders, but also it has challenges. You have more councillors, how do you arrive at decision making? It takes a long process. So every side has its own. So
and who funds them? Do they have a system of funding?
Culture should fund us. My clan should finance me somehow.
and the clan leaders out there, or the people, let's say at Tumunak, do they know that it is their responsibility to be able to fund?
That should be the next discussion. What should we do to be able to run affairs of council without necessarily waiting for some donor or waiting for some government official and what to give us money? We should not be financed by anybody. We should finance our process. But let me conclude because of time. There's council, there's cabinet. Cabinet is appointed by His Highness Papa Emorimor. And there's a list of cabinet. Usually it's flexible. You can have a larger cabinet or a smaller cabinet. But this also are subject to approval by the cabinet, the council or parliament, so to say. So there is an administrative structure at the top. This one I've talked about is at the foundational level, but there is this at the apex of the institution, which include council, cabinet, and His Highness. His Highness is supposed to enjoy almost like absolute power. Supposed to enjoy absolute power, and I would really agree that let Emorimor enjoy absolute power. The current constitutional crisis that we are having is not so clear on the limits of what Papa can do and so on. But that is the process that you must go through to join issue. But even without joining issue, you can be a member and just as a test. But lastly, as I conclude, we have had challenges in finding Emorimor. The first Emorimor, who is Papa Imodot, the interim, was elected during a difficult moment. And because we did not follow these processes, some Imodot was taken and a few photos taken, and they say, of course, Emorimor law. Because at that time, I think government was also not very receptive of chiefdoms. So there was a dilemma. So we didn't go through the process. But also, secondly, when His Highness Papa Emorimor the late came in, it was also not through the traditional way that we were supposed to.
Or a normal process.
Normal process, the one from Ochaloi. And the idea is that once people accept you from the grassroots, then on top you are really safe, and not even safe only, but you're acceptable and people believe in
whatever that you say.
Yeah. So because we did not follow that process, we are having a challenge now. That for me, what I believe that we must make this process as transparent and as inclusive as possible. Those that can come through competitively and come to council, so that they can participate in decision making and they are acceptable from wherever they come from, and they can be able to elect them more and more. By constitutional right now, even when there are challenges, council has the mandate to elect His Highness Papa Emorimor. And once they elect, then it is endorsed. But let's talk about the qualifications currently of Emorimor, which suggests that you must be 60 years and above, which none of us in this platform is, including myself. You must be, of course, of integrity. You really must have some unquestionable character. You must have a history that suggests that you can actually provide by the Teso standards that can provide leadership. So the other one, they talk about Asapan, but Asapan can be done even after you elected. Because if you don't go through Asapan, then you'll not be confirmed as a Emorimor. Asapan, I've written a small handbook about it. It's a process which initiates you into real being a real Etesot. So there are some values. We will not discuss some of our secrets on camera, but there are things that you must go through spiritually. It's a spiritual initiation. You must go through. So if you're not willing to go through that process, back off. Because you then will not be confirmed. So there are certain things that you're even given a new title when you go through that process. So there is a Sapan. So you must have those qualifications. Even when some colleagues are saying that let's open the limit for Emorimor to go to Aupakin Kede Constitution 18 and above. The framers of the issue, when I discuss with some of the founders, seem to suggest that a person who is Emorimor must be someone who has sort of done all they want to do in life, and now they are ready to serve their people. And that means you don't find Emorimor again going to clear a container somewhere in Japan. You don't find Emorimor in some business deals and so on. These are suggestions. However, I don't want to make my comment. What for me I'm interested in is unacceptable. Papa Emorimor, someone who's of integrity, someone who can select us because it's a symbol of unity. That I'm more kicking. And I'm sure once we have one Emorimor, we will pay allegiance to him, irrespective of the contradictions that they are in. But we will pay allegiance because whether you like him or not, he weighs his Irai Papa. So for me, those are the few views about leadership and how, therefore, we can come to a process of electing. So whoever wants to participate in the process, you know the qualifications as of now, unless something changes in council and say, let's amend this thing. I don't know whether it's possible or it's tenable. We have up to 6 months to have a substantial more, up to 6 months. So we can have those discussions between now and the next 6 months.
I just want to draw attention back. You talked about Emorimor, the one that everybody loves. That's the simple word I can use. It is really something very important if we are now going to elect a new Emorimor. Initially, when we started the process, I remember I was a bit young, but this is what I learned. I've been in several meetings of the clans, attending a lot of things, but this is what I learned. I believe Emorimor spent 22 years in power, isn't it?
Yes.
About there. 22 years.
Yes.
But you can wonder what has happened. You can wonder a lot. And I also want to say he has been with the committee members. I don't know what they have been doing. I don't want to pose a blame to him alone. What about the other heads that have been around him? You can imagine up to the time that he passed on, we didn't have even a smaller grass thatched house. You can imagine what were the heads doing that were around him. Meaning the heads were not together with the Emorimor. And the outside people, I believe, were not happy. So this time around, it's my prayer that when we are going to elect a new Emorimor, it should be a universal Emorimor, whereby we can do a lot. I want to say something. We should not depend on funds from government. We would be able to raise funds within ourselves. How many Teso are there worldwide? Supposing we say, Emorimor says, each month we want each Teso to pay maybe 500 cedis. How much money could be gathered for us to develop our own institution? It would be a lot of money. I've seen people collect a lot of money using dubious methods. But if we get somebody who is together with the people, that people have given hope, then we can be able to move further. However, this is subject to all of us now who are going to participate. It's my prayer to everybody who is listening that let's pray to get a leader who is going to help us move further. It has been a shame. It has been a shame. That's why we are not able to have our Emorimor, the first ever, buried in the palace. He has been taken to buried in his own, ancestors, and yet we are supposed to have a palace. In fact, in every event, he would be the first person to be shown to everybody who comes in and say, this is the first Emorimor. People pay legends to every event. But it was something wondering to me, particularly. I had some leader within the committee was arguing that let Emorimor be buried in the land here. To me, I was the one person who was supporting that idea because it was the first and the ever. I also heard about that he had written a will that burying him where he's Emorimor for everybody, not for one clan. You understand? I'm not meaning a tribe, not for one clan. So meaning if it was buried here, he would have remained more known everywhere. Now, if any event happens, who will go to Serere? So that's one thing that we need to avoid. Any Emorimor who comes in must think twice. 22 years down the road without a structure, even one, it's something not good. It's unacceptable. And I also want to say, I don't want to blame Emorimor alone. What about the other heads? The so-called, how do we call them? The ministers. Kirigi, first. What were they doing? I think it is their role to plan. In fact, to me, I have had interactions with other people who come from a chol where Emorimor waits for what you have designed and goes through. If he sees it's right, then he blesses it. But I think other heads around were not doing right things. We're waiting funds coming from somewhere instead of let ATEKER understand let's do this for our own sake.
That it is everyone's responsibility for us to be able to build Teso.
Yes.
Not only the Emorimor, but
yes.
everyone
Everyone.
who actually feels and believes or is actually a Tesot or a Tesot.
Yes.
So all of us out there, it is our responsibility to build our tribe, to build our land. Mr. Opolot, I beg to hear your submission on what is the role of the Emorimor. And I've seen a group of people being nominated for positions of the Emorimor running on social media. So if you could guide us, what are the qualities or qualifications for someone to become an Emorimor? Who elects the Emorimor? And take us through how the whole process goes through.
Okay, thank you so much. I have enjoyed the discussion, very enlightening, and surely it speaks of the passion we have for our ethnic nationality and our own cultural institution. Going back into history is very important, because then we practice what the Ram does. We move backwards thousands of years so that we gather momentum to relaunch ourselves into the future. Emorimor is a title for a village unifier. Initially, even up to now, the 7 main clans of the Teso, beginning from the Ikaruok, the fighters, Ikatekok, the arbitrators, then you go to the Irarak, the hunters, and then you go to Igoriai, the engineers, Ikomolo, the intelligentsia, the foretellers. Then you go to Innom, the orthopedics, the medical team, and then you go to Europe, the worshippers. Our superstructure, our leadership has been that God is our king. God is our king. And that is why you have specific institutional sites. Like in Turkana, between the Topos land, Turkana and Karamoja, there is a huge mountain, which we call Loima, the mountain of Lokapolon, the mountain of God, the mountain of Elohim. When our people arrived here in Ngora, they also named the current St. Philip's Cathedral in Ngora, Etogo Elohim. So in terms of leadership, God is the king. So whoever leads Teso as a human being is merely a unifier. What does he do? Arbitrates between the Teso people when they have conflicts. We are struggling for women, women are struggling for men, and such a matter is supposed to be resolved at that village by the unifier of that village. We go for a raid, and so I am the first person to pierce. Then we bring the animal home. And when we are supposed to divide, the one who pierced takes the biggest chunk, actually the thigh. So, but then if there is an issue whereby some people just walk around and they take more bigger pieces, where do you complain? You complain to Papa Eriga, and then you take it to Emorimor. So that is from the historical perspective. 1994, our elders, led by Papras Imodot Edimo, William Aloch Akol, Van Somome, John Otuko, the late, and then Nelson Enyego. These are also the late. These are former retired civil servants. And then the current one who's alive also, Emas Ogeuna, decided to bring the institution of Emorimor from the village level, because in each village there are a number of clans, sub-clans actually, not clans. They unite together, and one of them who is strong, courageous, actually a fighter with known marks of having eliminated many of his opponents. Let us say, for example, Amuriat of Komolo, who was killed by a leopard because he was actually given the responsibility of leadership because he killed a leopard. And then when he also grew up, after a long time of leadership, a leopard killed him. This Amuriat had a lot of, when you kill an enemy, you mark yourself. You mark yourself. The more marks you have, the most likely people will decide that you should be their leader because you are very courageous. That is why we use the word ekilokit. Ekilokit to mean courage. Now, a leader who becomes an Emorimor must embody 4 major values of Teso. That you must be, yes, you must be courageous, confront situation, aggressive, and defend the interests of our people. That's why they normally call them, he is a lion. Engatuny. Because Engatuny protects his territory and hands for his children. Beraimon Engatuny, apoloke belo sameja, uyauni nyamatai, ore anedwa kona ainyam. We also say an Emorimor is a humble person. Ordinarily, on normal discussions, he must be tamed in how he speaks. He can't just put himself in whatever discussion is going on. It takes time. That is why he scores highly in terms of humility. But he must also be very truthful. Because once you have gone through the process of Asapan, you are no longer in the league of the young people. You are in the league of God. Whatever you speak, the standard is truth. And that truth is that God is looking at you. So when you get through initiation to become an Emorimor, a leader, a kapolon, loetem, lebuku, the shield bearer, it means that you are no longer signing a contract among humans. There is now a third entity, and that is Osuban, who is always around us, Elohim. You tell lies, you are penalized. So he must be very truthful. The other thing which is notoriously known about an Emorimor is the aspect of being self-reliant. This Emorimor must not be a dependent of any other person. People must come to his home, the one we call Ojakait, Egiro. They must come to his home, they stand at the door side. When they have problems with the food, he comes and they say, go to the granary, get something and take home and feed yourself. So he must be the center of salvation of his people in the event of such issues of famine. So, what then does he do? He's a provider, okay? He's a protector. That's why we call him a Kirigi, because the name Kirigi has just been brought to a prime minister. But actually, Emorimor is a Kirigi. He's a protector. He's also the shield bearer. He fights for our people. Then, very, very important about is the question of conflicts. Our people tend to conflict because we don't share wives. And why women have brought a lot of problems to Teso. So, if you are married to so and so, you stick to that person. If you cross to the other person, we normally sort it out with a machar. They pierce you. But when such a thing happens, murder is committed. So an Emorimor must come in to say, how do we appease the other aggrieved party? So he mediates the process of saying, okay, now you have to pay 6 cows. This child, this incest, is really a conflict resolver. So, in the context to respond to your question, young people now must look at Emorimor both in terms of history, because an Emorimor was a title given to a person who led purely a military zone called ATEKER. An ATEKER. So ATEKER would be like an equivalent of sub-county these days. the one who commanded the military formation that they tell her is the Emorimor, is the Ebuku. These are titles, unifier. So each clan, sub-clan comes from there with their leadership. Let's say, for example, we had a military commander called Malenga, who used to move to areas of Bugisu. And that's why all the Bugisu area, they know a man. There is a name that strikes every Mugisu elder, and the name Malenga. You just don't speak anyhow, because they know what Malenga did there. So Malenga would lead a formation. But people come from their ATEKER. They come from their extended families. They come from their sub-clans. They come to Etela where Malenga is. Then Malenga says, now we are going to lead, commanded by a young man called Etio from Bukedia. Then you go, say we are going to Busoga. Of course, that's why now you find most of us, as Teso, are all over. We are so many in Busoga, we are so many in Bugere land, because those areas people just went there for a raid. They capture a lady and bring her home. Most of the Iteso from Ngora are light skinned because they are products of marriages based on raids. You go and raid wives, girls, beautiful girls from Basoga area, bring them over, teach them your culture and transform them into Iteso. They produce light skinned ones. The Iteso from areas of Wusuk, areas of Katakui, are really dark blue like the Nubians, because they are still having the regional melanin traits. Of the Iteso. So my brother has put very clearly, Akroni Puni Kamutosi, equalities lokopana betore mormorako kanai, which is very good. But in the current context, we now have a constitution which is a summation of our principles and practices, our traditions. The constitution now says an Emorimor who comes into the office must be from either of the 4 regions. We have 4 regions of the Teso nation. Northern region, Agolitome. Northern region, Agolitome, means Katakui, Amuriat, Kaberemaido, Kalaki, Soroti, and Soroti. And Kapelibion, I've left out Kapelibion. Then you go to Central Teso. Serere, Ngora, Kumi, Bukedia, Butebo, Aparisa, and Kibuku, those areas where the Teso are. Then you go to Southern Teso. Tororo, Busia, Namaingo, Bugiri, Nabisindwa, areas, the Busoga area where the Teso are. Then you now move to Eastern Teso, which now has Matayos, Nambale, Teso South, Teso North, Amagora Mukura. Then you even go up to the present day Bungoma, parts of Bungoma, Kakamega area there.
That's in Kenya.
That is in Kenya. That's why normal people say from Katakwa to Katakwi. You begin from Magoro to Amagoro. You begin from Asinye to Asinye. So our bigger nation, the ATEKER Teso nation, is governed based on those. So a leader will be identified on rotational basis according to our law now. You don't just say, I want to be an Emorimor. You must be in one of these regions that are qualified. The first Emorimor started from Northern Teso, and that is Paprasi Modot. The second Emorimor, the one who just buried, is Papa Osuban, Augustine Lemukol from Serere. Now, Central. Now, these 2 regions have not had an Emorimor, Eastern and South. So the candidates for an Emorimor should now be coming from the Southern Teso and Eastern Teso. But they must come from their clans. You just don't come from anywhere and say, I'm a professor, you see I have been around in Germany. No, you must begin from your clan. Your clan must prove that you have been part and parcel of that clan. You are part and parcel of the practice of that clan. Then they recommend you. But that clan of yours must also be registered with the Union of Iteso, which is called the Iteso Cultural Union, which is a contract which just came up with in 1994. Okay? So we are an egalitarian people. Egalitarian would mean it means that we call ourselves equals. Every Etesot is a king. Every Etesot is Emorimor in his own right. So all we need is one who unifies us. So we are not a kingdom. We are not a kingdom. You only need to reward our value system. You must be humble, you must belong to a clan, you must be courageous, you must be self-reliant. If your behaviors reward those values, then you can lead us. So that adds to the question of who we are. My brother had raised a very pertinent concern of the modern Emorimor. That should be left now to the Council of ATEKER. People can propose how they want to reform the constitution, because there is a constitution which government of Uganda has gazetted. Teso Cultural Union is gazetted because they presented their constitution, the anthem, their emblem, their coat of arms, and then their constitution to government. So that is why government, because it has got legal provisions for burial of chiefdom leaders, they gave us state burial. As to how it went, it's a discussion of another day.
It's a discussion of another day,
sure.
for sure. Thank you all very much, gentlemen, for sharing with us. We've learned a lot, and before we go, I would like everyone to give a minute advice to young people out there, the Teso who wants to learn. We are the future of Teso tomorrow. So a minute, a word to the young people out there.
Let me begin. I have not been replaced as well. I head of the youth desk. I joined Teso Cultural Union when I led the Teso Medical Group. I was the president of the Teso Medical Group, and I had to get to Teso Cultural Union by invitation from a South Sudanese who had come to train clan leaders. I don't want young people to do what I did, to have an invitation from a non-Teso. I am inviting young people to come into the discussion for our identity. Countries are expanded based on their culture, based on their economy. You can never be anybody else, but you are always an Teso. Do not run from your identity to something else. We are Teso, a people with history, a people who must contribute to the tree of human civilization. So ATEKER, along to Toma, Aturnaji. Mami le chirum tos gibinaram gigene narateso. Iyeru ni jode narateso. Alamanto, Amuriat kodiai.
Alamanoi, akodo bonga bongo kimbe katro ni sedia to Cosmas. Etungale kufeto kinga kere yalama akakiro rasdoare. Do no inara ditapak. Mami priority tema kiro. Konya kiro ne kunga kere sine constitution. E korne constitution etemne reoro. Asesena jok na arai ipole ajeni yango mami tunga arai Teso jenda kiro ne constitution. Abuni ngel lip ya auriana rene tupakini etite moto bara kiro ne constitution. Ogeti tunga lokinga pupu na kiro ne constitution e jok. Arai ina rena beje constitution do mami tunga jeni te benyoja itoma. Inakini tunga mamsa misikini. Machi te ubuna pagalo. Kopana pupu ngabala se tunga ngwi e constitution e kote July. Ngina ngina rakiro na gogo na arai aramame pupo kina kiro na itunga akepolebe itunga ajala kina opakere ngara no ndo sikuno nyini yasa pa kiro na ikoti titeme jok olimdu tunga nyoy podasi na arai Teso do ngasa Teso kai bakere be ngini Teso na rai kabaka e ko sekre kese kabaka lo eminasi le pota papa kese kiro lo dai bule jana kini kwesi o constitution bane panen e koto jai kabakere be mame apuga ira rai lo rai inherited e kodo jay time limit to jina pak na barabe ngone dawni karitomon o do na ke pa ko security be je ko nyemere constitution la ngopit lo mitunge jenda kese kiro e rai borere mame bulba yawno e yala mo ngaren e yala ma ngonoi e ta kin sine katalu e so lo kinga mam jenda Teso e ko ra chamne ne ra Teso e ngo e ata kinga jawnu no awri anta katanu alo finga tusuma angaje bona Teso na rai rai nge Teso be abun ngati sera musubun yala ma no
Jiji miner konye ditapak. Teso era asenerak. Imina sainer. We could talk until morning because there's quite a lot to talk about. Mamera be mamsoije na Teso. Konye nara ejiche tunga le kosa mesekene. nwe swama se aneja oni so sometimes dumunje be imordo ne nyala ne talongwa inu nara kwa pijenyo ni swama sakire chepone agolokin dongo agolokin dongo akoto nga elepe etonga lo jas kenga no ina atumu na kelepe ta eso atukote rai nakus arai giri jarao tete soto da mamji raw ne moy do jata mat bi moy kote ne konyi mamji lo saraw ne moy ari nera ja joka ka bakalo buganda konye orono naok chachen japak nange sapake kwe balaro na cheka olobo tutoma so di chema mi balabi kota maka kina jauta tukote ikoto sodati asoma cheso msina rase teso so elala puwa bo isi olomu toma onye polijana kina jo iteso adoketa ita na pepedo rajo angeta kiningo ekoto pape Emorimor lese kunora ile chamundo setoga yongora ka ijene mamti akota maran ekoto ipopo una iboren ora iboren e chamune ta yeni nara tungana lemina setonga kotonga limo ni jo enga gwela rabisirda na ita tani Emorimor nara jeni ngobe ereka Emorimor otupite taineri ngoni atengo o jawno sa akiro sinenu e beta Emor ejitu olpe nguri anase tengo bete yawni kesi boy kinos tete motakiro e ala mango ne muri akolie.
Thank you very much for joining us on this amazing enlightening talk. For all the young people out there, all the Iteso out there, let us come together. We are going to learn a lot on this journey of the next Emorimor. We shall share more insights, we shall have more discussions with more people so that we can dig deeper into our culture. It's our role as Miss Tourism Teso to preserve our heritage as the Iteso, and follow us on all our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram for all updates on everything concerning the Iteso. Yala manoe emuriakoliai.